everybody. Well, I figured I'm going to get started on those handles, so I'm out at my moderate pile of firewood. Me and my neighbor had been splitting some, and I found a nice chunk of cherry with no branches. Got some pretty good grain, nice and straight. Beautiful color on this stuff. I only need 2 handles, but I grabbed 2. What I'm going to do is take it in and split off the fat wood, not cut it, because I want the split to go with the grain. If you cut it, it'll go across the grain, and it could cause the handle to be weak. So what I'm going to do is rough out these blanks, make them oversized, and then let them set and air out and finish drying and stuff while I'm working on the metal parts. So I'll take you back inside and turn those down. Alright, I got you put up in the lathe. I had to rough this thing out a little bit. It was so out of balance. I literally had to clamp my lathe down. And just to watch, I made a big boo-boo. I mounted my bench to the building joist, which connects to the rafters. And this literally shook out of the rafters. Yes? Recognize that? Little pointy fencing sword. So if you build a bench for your lathe, don't mount it to the wall. But anyhow, I got it settled out pretty good now. Oop, there's a big chip that needs to come off. I got it settled out, and I want to show you. There, that won't hit me in the forehead. I want to show you how my method for making long parallel cylindrical handles or dowels or whatever. I got to take this thing down to get all this white wood off and get to the heart. But even with the wrong tool, I'll show you how to do it. First thing you do is take your tool rest and make it parallel with the lathe. I just eyeball it down and parallel it with this frame down here. You can do some measurements or something like that. Just get it parallel with the frame, and then you grab your tool firmly, you get your measurement in, and just run the back side of your finger along your rest at the same angle all the way, and you'll end up with a nice straight piece without any humps and bumps in it. Even if it's not touching, don't adjust your grip. I'll get a little bit more aggressive. Well, here's something I want to demonstrate for you. This little mini lathe, if you're doing small stuff, is a great lathe for beginners, because eventually, especially when your rest is real close to the wood, you're going to screw up and, jump your tool into the piece. Watch what this does when I accidentally over push. Isn't that handy? That way the tool doesn't come flying out of your hand and end up stuck in the ceiling or whop you in the jaw. And I can still put a lot of cutting pressure on it without it stopping. And this is on the lowest speed, which is 700 RPMs, I believe. Unfortunately, it has a short tool rest. I need to make a longer one. see how this is becoming parallel. This is a real hard spot. There's kind of a knot here. And my carbide's getting a little dull. Again, I'm looking over here on the horizon. Gives you a better idea of where your cut is making the wood. Right there is a real hard spot. Alright, I think it's safe to speed this up a little bit. I'm going to flip the belts over and go up one notch. Yeah, I'm just about out of my sapwood here. Alright, let me turn you back on in a minute when I get the speed cranked up. Alright, I got the speed cranked up a little bit. I switched over my roughing gouge. I think I got a good edge on it. See if I can speed this process up. I won't torture you through the whole thing of just making a straight piece. There, that's a little smoother cut. Not bad, not bad. Alright, I'm going to turn you off till I get this done. I'll get my other two done. I made an extra handle in case one warps real bad. So let me turn you off. I'll get this all done. Then I'll show you the end results. Alright, I got the first one pretty much done. I'm just coming back and just touching it with my skew to really make it nice and parallel. It makes a very smooth cut. It almost looks standard with this green wood. And any little humps or bumps or anything like that, it'll take them right out. One more final little piece here. See how nice and straight it came out? Down here is a little bit thicker, but that's no big deal. This is just for the drying period. Just making a very light cut. Square up the end a little bit. I'll probably just cut that on the chop saw, but this looks better. I think all in all, the skew is my favorite tool. Can really dress something up. Oh, I got you clamped. Alright. You can see I have a nice, beautiful piece of cherry now. I got one little piece of sapwood, but this thing's one little piece of sap. But this thing's way oversized. I'm guessing it's like over 2 inches. So I'm going to put a coat of tung oil on this, a pretty heavy coat. That will slow down the drying process, and hopefully it won't warp up too bad. It's still pretty heavy, so I don't think it'll warp. Alright, we'll turn you on in a while, I guess. Ciao. Hey everybody, welcome back out to the shop. I'm back at putting my new lathe tools together. My wood was rough turned. It's been sitting in the house for a week or two. Should be dried out enough. I got my metal pieces done. They come out pretty decent. This stuff was really rough. I just took it down to about 220 I got some marks on there where my depth to go into my handle. They recommend 3.5. I went like 4, a little bit extra. So, wow, that's going to be long. Yeah, looks fine to me. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and finish up these handles so I can get these this bar stock in there, and then I can get my carbide cutters on the end of it. And then, because I'm anxious to get them done, because I have a, man, I got horrible lighting, hold on. I have a new bowl project. Found a really nice piece of cedar. It's a cedar root ball, actually. I can't tell if that's showing up or not. Oh, it's actually better back here. A cedar root ball. It's got some real interesting grain. I roughed it out on my the bigger lathe at work because it was too big for this one by about 1 inch. I got one little piece right here that I need to nip off, and then I can run it on this lathe. So I'm anxious to get them tools done so I can get going on this new bowl project. Should be pretty awesome. We'll see. Alright, let me get you cranked up. I kind of like the feeling of this handle, of the one I bought. So I'm going to go about this thickness. I like this idea. So I'm going to incorporate that. So I'm going to shoot for this thickness. And I'll turn and then I'm going to use, instead of a piece of ferrule like this, I've seen a lot of guys use copper pipe. I'm going to set it back a little bit and try to wrap it with copper wire and see what that looks like. So I'm going to get her down to this thickness, and then I'll turn you back on. Alright, I got the handle down to the shape I want. I made it just a little bit thinner than the store-bought one, because right here it felt okay, but it's just a little large. So I made it just a little thinner. I got a nice taper up to the front. And then right here I got my little groove for my copper wire to go into, a little rounded over nose end, and then a nice butt end here. So this stuff here, I'm just going to put a coat of polyurethane on it. I just got a little bit, help bring out some of the color to this cherry, darken it up a little bit. Now the tricky part is going to be to duplicate this shape, haha. But, you know, if they don't turn out, I throw it back in the burn pile, firewood pile, and start over. This one here I'm real happy with though. I got my speed cranked up pretty good on my lathe for sanding. I'm leaving the ends on it for now because it'll help me get my center when I'm drilling it out. I have to drill it pretty deep, and I don't have a chuck to go in my lathe, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to kind of eyeball it, which is fine. It's a little bit out of center or a little bit crooked, that's no big deal. I can live with it. Remember, never use a rag on the lathe. I can already feel that poly setting up. It's pretty cool. I'll put a few more coats on it anyhow. That's good for now. So now all I have to do, that looks pretty damn store-bought to me. Turned out pretty slick. Here's my nice little hump. That just discouraged me from holding up too far on it. There's my little groove for the copper wire to sit in, my little finished front end. Right there. Turned out pretty neat. Cherry's got some pretty nice grain to it. I just hope it's not too brittle, but I think with that copper wire on the front it'll be just fine. And it's not like I'm turning a 4-foot log. So that's pretty cool. I'll turn you back on when I get my tool steel mounted in there. And that's going to be, I'm going to drill it oversized because it's square. I don't feel like rounding it. And then I'm going to fill the gap with epoxy. And then put that wire on as tight as I can get it. And I might coat that in epoxy too, just to keep it shiny, so it doesn't oxidize and turn green and get funky. Alright, I'll turn you back on when I get my tool mounted in there. Alright, I'm just putting the finishing touches on this. Everything went pretty decent. Put my little carbide tip on there. I'll put a dot of super glue underneath it so it won't rotate on its own. If I need to rotate it, I can just heat it up with a torch and it soften the super glue. There, we got it. And then I can rotate it or change it as needed. So I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. I might have to grind that screw. And here we have it. It took almost like 8.5 feet of copper wire to wrap this, but it turned out looking really cool. Handle turned out looking nice. I really got to get a light. Let's see if I can turn you. The handle turned out looking nice. I got a little touch-up finish, a little touch-up sanding to do. I got a little bit more fill to do on the end with epoxy because it took a bunch. But all in all, came out really nice. Now I have a nice carbide tipped cutter. Copper looks pretty neat on there. I might coat that with epoxy just to keep it shiny. Be pretty cool. But all in all, I bought this one for $100. This one, total investment I think is about 25, maybe 30, and I got the exact same quality tool, if not better. So I got another one to make, and we're good to go. Actually, I could just use this one and change out the cutter heads when I wanted square or not. So all I did with the copper wire is I drilled the appropriate size hole in here. I just used, I think it was 14 gauge wire, electrical wire, the ground wire out of a piece of Romex. Just drilled the hole, put it in, bent a 90 on it, stuck it in there, put a dot of super glue, pulled it really tight and did my wind, and then I found out where it was going to end and backed it up, put a 90 on it, cut it to the right length, and drilled a little hole, stuffed it in there, tapped it in real careful with the hammer, and a dot of super glue. Solid tool. Alright everybody, I'll get some more and I'll get that bowl going probably tomorrow. So have a great night. Play nice.